Greeting and welcome to the Intensive Success Growth. I'm your host, Nishant Sharma. Today we have a guest, Steve. Steve is a podcast host, Health Quest podcast. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you for having me, Nishant.
Okay, let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who were you surrounded with that inspired you to do what you do today?
Well, it's a long story because my whole adult career has been part of this journey. It started back when I was in my 20s and I studied natural healing for 3 years. I moved back to my hometown in Wisconsin and I opened up a health food store back in 1976, which I just sold 2 months ago after 46 years. So I began my career owning a health food store. And in that process, I used my education to teach others about nutrition and good health. And remember, this was over 40 years ago. Things were different back then. Back in the mid 90s, I started a local radio show called Health Quest Radio Show. And I did that for 20 years. And that was a local radio show just heard in my Northeast Wisconsin. But at the time, I felt that my radio show was more important than to be limited by just the local audience, because nutrition was something that everybody was beginning to have an interest in. And so I used the interviews that I did. My focus was always interviewing experts in nutrition so that they could help us, myself, my listeners, understand what is for many a very confusing topic. So I did that for 20 years. I even started streaming my interviews on the internet back in 1999. So I've actually been on the internet streaming audio for over 20 years. So I was an early adopter well before podcasts were even invented. And then as the technology emerged and podcasts became more accessible, in 2011, I started Health Quest podcast so I could expand my reach. So Health Quest podcast is an outcrop of my lifelong journey of teaching others about good nutrition and how to appropriate good nutrition into their lives. So I've been on this journey with my wife during all of these years, and she has been my biggest supporter all along. And so now that I have sold my health food store and I no longer have that responsibility, my attention is turning pretty much to podcasting. And now I have over 400 interviews where I've talked to some of the best experts in natural healing. So being a part of the natural products industry certainly was helpful to me. Having 20 years of radio broadcasting was certainly helpful to me. And just knowing some of the smartest people in the natural products industry has been the biggest asset I have, because they know what the rest of us don't. And so that's why I interview them, so that we can all learn how to be healthier.
Great. What are the reasons? Why do people fail?
Why do people fail? Oh, I think they fail because they don't have a vision is one reason. People have to imagine what it is that they want out of life or out of a particular set of circumstances. And I think it's the lack of imagination for people to think about their lives and how they want their lives to be. And then what do they need to do to begin to realize some of those goals? And so I think that, in my opinion, is the biggest reason people don't get there, is because they never get started. Second reason is they don't continue the journey. They don't persevere through the challenges. And perhaps lastly, they need to have a passion for what they do. To start something without a passion is less likely to be successful. Whereas if you're following your passion and you love what you do, then it's hard not to be successful.
Okay, great. So what is your greatest failure story? What did you learn from it? And how did you recover from it?
My greatest failure is,
Yes.
oh, well, being a small business person is challenging at all times. And so at one time I thought, oh, we can just expand our store. We can open up more stores. And I found that trying to duplicate my success in one store was not as easy in two stores, much less three or four. And so I invested a lot of money opening a second store, only to realize that this was not the best use of my energy, time, and money. And so after 9 years, we closed the second store, went back to owning only one store, and have continued with our success that way. So all of our assets, all of our people, all of our product, all of our knowledge was all in one place. So it was an expensive lesson that I learned about how difficult it might be sometimes. So learn to count the cost, learn to evaluate what it's going to take to do what you want to do, and then see if you're prepared. And if not, then go back a few steps so that you can prepare yourself better for success. So for me, that's probably the biggest failure that I had. And yet at the same time, I think of it not so much as a failure, but an attempt to grow that didn't work out well.
Yes. At least you don't have regret.
No, I don't have a regret, because I feel that where I am today is a result of all the steps I've taken in the past. I wouldn't be here if I had taken a different journey or turned into a different direction. So wherever we are in our life, it's the results of all the choices, all the people, all the opportunities that we have made through life. And if we are in a point where we feel like we have done what we can and we have followed our passion, then I think we have a right to take pride in our results, even if they're not always the most stellar results. It is still your life, and it is still what you get to make of it. And we should all be proud of that.
What's your company motto?
Our motto is dedicated to nutrition and your good health.
Okay. Great. So, who is your ideal client?
Well, my podcast is designed a little differently than many. My clients, the ones who actually pay me money, are the companies that I seek out and interview. My listeners are my listeners. They're not my clients in the sense that they never pay me. I don't have any affiliate marketing. I don't have any Google ads. I don't have anything to distract from the content. So my clients are those companies who have, I think, good products and a story to tell. Why this product? What can this do for us? So my clients are natural products manufacturers who have a high standard of quality and commitment to product and cleanliness, honesty, transparency. Not all companies and every industry has their bad players. I use my 46 years in the natural products industry to find who I know to be the best companies. And then I ask them to join me on this journey. And I ask them to help support this journey financially, because they have the deep pockets. They have the interest in spreading their news. And so we don't want to charge listeners for that. We want that to be free. And yet we can't do what we do for free. We have to have an income. So our only source of income has become the companies that we trust, we endorse, and who trust and endorse me. So it's a mutual agreement, an understanding. They know me from being there for all these years. I know them because I've been there all these years. So my client are the best companies in the natural products industry.
Do you sign any agreement with them?
I do not. It's always a gentleman's agreement. If they want to be on my podcast, we do the podcast, we do the editing, we do the posting, we do the promoting, and then we allow them to hear what we've done, see what we've done. And after that, if they're happy, then we send them an invoice. And so we make sure that our clients are happy before they ever spend a penny with us. And so I never sign a contract. People will tell me, we want to do 4 podcasts this year, and we want to talk about these different products, or this different health problem, or this different science. And I trust these people to follow through. But if anybody ever says to me, we've changed our mind, we don't want to do this anymore, no hard feelings. Thank you for giving me your consideration. But I never asked somebody to sign a contract. I've never had to. In over 400 interviews, I've never had any problems because I work with responsible, reliable, incredible companies. And so it's just always worked that well. And I made that a conscious decision when I designed the podcast, because I didn't want to have to deal with affiliate marketing and Google ads and other forms of revenue support. I wanted the podcast to be clean and free of all distractions. And the only way I could afford to do that was to partner with these companies. So we are partners, even if we just do one podcast, but I have many companies who have done 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 podcasts over the years because they like the product that I produce. And my content is designed to have be long lasting. So it's not time sensitive to the time of year or the seasons or what year it is. The content is reliable. And so we have designed the website so that people can go back and easily find any topic and any interview that they're interested in. You can imagine if there's over 400 interviews, how do people find something that goes back 1, 2, or 3 years? We have created search tools to allow that to happen more successfully. So we put a lot of thought in the beginning. How do we want this website to function? What do we want users to be able to do? And I think sometimes one of the biggest mistakes podcasters make is they don't look at their product from the viewer's standpoint. They don't go listen to their own podcast to see, is this good? Or they don't go to their webpage to see, can I find an interview on this topic? So this is a challenge that we tried to resolve, knowing that we were going to have many interviews and we wanted them to have a timeless quality. So as a result, all of our interviews virtually continue to get downloaded even after 5 and 10 years, because we've made it possible for people to find it. And the interest is always there. There's always new people who have questions and are happy to find a particular topic that meets their needs for the health conditions that they deal with. So that's, I think, part of our success was thinking about all of those things in the beginning. Ask yourself, why should people listen to me? I had to answer that question. And can I come up with a good answer that if it was somebody else doing this, would I want to listen to it? So if you think about what it is that you're going to do and try to have clarity as to what it is you think will help you be successful, you are more likely then to achieve that. So thinking at it from your customers' point of view, so my client's point of view, they need to be happy and successful in what I'm doing. And my customers need to, or my listeners have to find that it's accessible and useful and worth listening to. And so trying to think about both who's my client and who's my listener allows me to marry those two diverse interests together.
Okay, great. So how do you find your ideal client?
My ideal clients, I find them because I'm involved in the natural products industry. So having had a store and dealt with customers, I know the questions customers have. And having been in the industry and dealt with many, many companies as store owner, I knew the good companies. And so I seek out these companies directly by going to trade shows where they are exhibiting and meeting them and talking with them and showing them what I do, and trying to find those companies that have an interest in furthering their outreach to consumers. And our particular outreach are long form interviews. My interviews average about 45 minutes. And so that's a long time to capture somebody's attention. But if they are an interested consumer and the topic is relevant and interesting, they will listen. So I'm looking for those very specific people who are willing to, spend time listening to experts who put their knowledge in front of us to learn from. And so my ideal clients are the ones who see that what I do is valuable and is a tool that they can use to reach their interested consumers.
How do you start your day?
How do I start my day? Oh, I start my day by having an exercise period. And then I do a little work in the morning, and then I stop and I break and I have breakfast with my wife, and we play cribbage and have breakfast, and we have a morning chat. And then I break for the rest of my day of work, which can be diverse.
Okay. How young are you?
I'm 72.
You are not 72-year young. You are 18-year young with 54-year experience.
Good enough. I'll take it.
Okay, thank you. So who is your living mentor and what is the impact?
Well, the mentor for my podcast is a gentleman named Cliff Ravenscraft. And 11 years ago, Cliff, who started podcasting back in about 2005, early on, and he started teaching others about podcasting. And so I took his course and learned from him what I needed to learn to get started. And his goal for his students in his classes was, if you are active, you can have a podcast up by the time this class is done in 30 days. And so I set that as my goal, and I was able to start my podcast within that 30 days and have continued uninterrupted since then. So I would not be here today without Cliff Ravenscraft.
Okay. What are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful for today. I try to live a life of gratitude. I feel like I have been able to accomplish my goals, to live a happy and fulfilling life. I have a good marriage of almost 48 years. So I'm grateful for all of my steps along the way, because again, it's all those steps that got me here. So I believe gratitude is an essential component of a happy life. And if you don't have gratitude, you're not seeing the blessings that you have. And I've listened to some of your podcasts of, people who have had challenges and how challenges greater than mine. My own wife had a serious health condition, and she has since been able to recover after a long period of challenges. I'm very grateful for that we're able to continue to function in our home. We live in a beautiful home on a lake. I live in a state that I love. I have 2 loving children. I try to look for those things to be grateful for all the time.
Okay. What's your plan to achieve your goal?
Right now, my goal is to work on improving my podcasts. I'm currently, because I no longer own a store, I now have some time to work on improving my technology and my outreach and do more of what I love to do. And so it's to continue to grow in both personal and professional lives.
Okay. How would you feel in case you don't achieve your goal?
Oh, probably frustrated, but it depends on how far I get in my goal. So for example, I think of life as a journey, and a journey of many steps. And so even the journey, being mindful and aware of the journey and the benefits of each step and the importance of each step is a big part of the goal. I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, the journey is the reward. And I believe that. I think focusing too much on the end results can obscure the benefits of today. So I believe that we need those goals. We need to evaluate and drive towards those goals, all the while enjoying each step of the way.
Okay. Why being impactful is more important to you?
I'm sorry, what?
Why being impactful is more important to you?
Oh, because I've always felt that the knowledge that I had could help someone else. And I learned that every day in the health food business. People would always come in with questions. What can I do? How can I make a change? What are the best products? How should I proceed? And so being impactful was always a part of the job because I knew if I know more than the person I'm talking to, I can help them. I can use my knowledge to further their knowledge so that they can be more successful. And it's a very satisfying thing to be impactful in other people's lives. And so all those years, people would come to our store and say, thank you so much. You've really helped me. Now I'm turning to educating a much wider audience through the podcast. And so knowing that nutrition is a very confusing field for many people. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of poor quality product. There's all kinds of challenges for consumers to try to cut through the clutter. So my ability to help them understand these complex and confusing topics and understand how to make good choices in the marketplace means that they are going to make better choices. Better choices lead to better outcomes. So it does me a world of good to know that the information that I'm presenting is helping others. And so I've always had that sort of teacher mentality as part of what I do. I teach others the things that I have learned in a way that I think they can appropriate and understand, and that in turn can help them move forward as well.
How can we support you?
By promoting my podcast. That's the best thing. If you feel my podcast is of value and reflects a value that you believe in, then I'm happy for every endorsement, every star, every like. To me, knowing that other people trust me enough to recommend me, and that's how they can help me by sharing the knowledge of my podcasts with friends and social networks, all the while knowing that I'm not going to sell them anything. And I think that means a lot to many listeners because nobody likes to be taught something that's for the purpose of just having them buy. And so that's why we took that out of our equation so that we present the information, you get to listen to it, and if it's valuable, it will find a path. So for example, with over 400 podcasts, we have over 500,000 downloads now. Just recently passed that benchmark a few months ago. So 500,000 downloads, that's huge for me. And so it tells me that a lot of people have benefited from our podcast.
What would you like to say about your guest experience on this show?
I think my guests experience enjoy it being interviewed by me because one of my skills, and I've learned to appreciate this skill in myself, is that I am a good interviewer. And I know how to interview very smart people about very complex topics, nutrition and how it works, and disease and what you can do for it. These are not easy concepts to understand because we try to go deeper into it. And so what I have learned is that my guests very much appreciate the fact that I have this background and I know how to ask intelligent questions that are geared to being useful to the average listener. And so they appreciate that because they get interviewed by a lot of people who just don't know much about nutrition and don't know how to ask the right questions. And oftentimes that's dissatisfying for an interviewee. And so what they appreciate about me is I know how to conduct a good interview that gets us from the beginning to the end. And by the time we're done, they will have had an opportunity to tell their story, and our listeners have had an opportunity to hear the story so that they can make decisions based on what they learned from our podcast. And so that's a great benefit to the people who I get to interview.
Okay. What's your final word?
My final word is follow your bliss. Try to find in your life what makes you happy, and then seek to do that, and always seek to know what's important to the people that you encounter, people in your family, people who are your friends, people who are business acquaintances, places where you shop and do business. Always seek to understand what's important to the other person and give that to them, and they will very likely want to give back to you. So it's a mutual understanding of trying to appreciate and work with others. And I find that doing that, treating others the way you like to be treated, one of the keys to happiness in life, gratitude and treating others well, will take you a long way.
Thanks, Steve, for sharing your wisdom with us on the behalf of our community and team. We really appreciate you. Until the next time, all good wishes to you.
Thank you so much, Nishant. I really appreciate the opportunity. I wish you the best, and I look forward to any opportunity you might want to speak. So thank you so much.